Alright, hey guys, welcome to your first tutorial video. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up a basic HTML5 template for your websites, because we will be doing multiple websites, which will eventually become multiple apps, and they kind of use the same structure. So might as well just have a bunch of code that you can always reuse rather than typing it over again. But before we get started, a few things about organization. When I'm looking at your guys' folders in class, or your screens, I should say, your home pages and everything in class, they're a mess. You got files and folders and stuff all over the place, and you gotta fix that because you can't find anything. So if you're gonna do coding, you gotta get organized. So you should all have a code club folder. I think we all did that in the first class. Inside the Code Club folder, then, you should have some things that we've been working on. For today, why don't you create a new folder and call it HTML5 underscore template, okay? And then what we're going to do is put in 2 new files in there, okay? So, Code Club folder on your desktop, inside the Code Club folder, HTML5 template, and we're going to put files in there. Now I've already coded this up, so I'm not going to take too much time writing code while you're waiting. Remember, you can pause this video and copy all of this code. I'm also going to put the code on the website. You can just cut and paste it if you want. I recommend, though, that you type it yourself so you get used to doing it. So let me show you what I have. I have created a new file, and I just saved it as html5 underscore template.html. And then, so I went to File, and I saved it inside my HTML5 template folder, okay? Don't need to save it again because I already have it. I created a separate file called style.css. You haven't seen this yet. You've seen the style before, but we've not created a separate file. So all you're going to do, let me just take this out for a second, is do a Command N, which creates a new file, and do Command S, and just save it as style.css. Okay, and then just click Save, make sure it's in the same folder as your template. Now I'm not going to resave this because I already have one. Let me go back to there and just put the style stuff back in, and I'll show you what this is in a second. Okay, so for right now, let's go back to the HTML5 template.html. Okay, remember, anytime you are making an HTML page, it's got to end with HTML. So at this point, you probably want to pause the video so you can type this code out, or simply copy and paste it from the website into your HTML5 template document so you have it to work with. Okay? So go ahead and do that. Get this stuff inside of this file, then save it so you have it. Alright? Now, once you have that, let's double click and open up our page. Okay, so here is the page. Now yours will not look like this because you have not styled it yet. Alright, you're just going to have words, and they're going to be on the left hand side of the page. So let's go back to Text Wrangler. And in order to style it, remember, let me copy this out here real quick. Remember, Command C is copy. So to style it, remember, I showed you that you go in here and you type in style, and always close your tags and indent. Okay, here's a little trick. I'm going to take all this stuff that got kind of out of whack here, and I'm going to do Command right curly brace, right curly brace, right curly brace. And that moves that entire chunk over. We like to have things looking nice and neat. So remember, I showed you how to style your pages. Okay, this is CSS. The CSS tells your HTML what to look like, what, basically how to show up on the web browser. Okay, so what I want you guys to understand is, although we've been doing this in class, we've had the style sheet inside the HTML document. We're not really supposed to do that, or at least it's really not good practice. It doesn't really matter. You can do it as much as you want. But the thing is, once you get a bunch of styles in here, then this page becomes giant and it's got a bunch of CSS files and a bunch of HTML files, and it's just hard to organize. So it's really good to make sure that you take this stuff, and notice that I'm not taking the style tags. I'm just taking the stuff inside of it. Command X, cut it out of there. Going over here and just Command V, paste it, right? And you can do Command left curly brace and back that stuff up. Okay, so you cut it out of here. We don't even need these style sheets anymore. Okay, cut it out of there, save it, put it in a style sheet, save it. Notice you don't need anything but the CSS. Okay, now we have to link this style sheet to the HTML5 page. And in order to do that, this is what you have, and you probably typed it in already because you copied the code. So you have a link, and then what is the link? It relates to the style sheet. What style sheet? Style.css. Okay, that's how you read it. href is our link. Remember, because we did an href, we did the links to a web page the other day. So style.css. The reason that these two pages are connected is because when we go here and go in here, they're in the same place, right? So now, when we go back here, let's open this up, our web browser. Let's refresh, just check it. All right, if you refreshed it and it looks the same, or for you guys it should change and look like this, then it's good to go. Okay, this is your template that you can work with. I always color the divs like so, just so you know where they're at and what they look like, because once you get going, you'll see that it can get kind of confusing, because HTML is that way. Some of these things may overlap if you don't do the CSS correctly. So let's go back in here. Let me talk about some of the CSS real quick, just so you understand what's going on. Also, let me explain why this page looks slightly different than the ones we made before, because I made it in HTML5. So here, this is a div, and it has an ID called wrapper. And you notice that it's right next to the body tags. So I've essentially wrapped all of this stuff inside of it, hence the idea of wrapper. That's all this div is doing, is serving as a container for this stuff. So in my style sheet, I have a wrapper with a width of 75% and a margin, a right margin and a left margin of auto. Okay, what that does is it brings these margins in so that your content is taking up 75% of the page. If you go back and change it to 100, Command S to save, and refresh, you have 100%. And also notice when you bring it in, it responds to the size, okay, of the web browser. This is called responsive web design, and we'll learn about this as we go on. This is kind of the way things are done right now. Okay, so you can even make it 10% if you want, and shrinks it in, but it doesn't look really good, right? So let's go back and do 75 because it kind of makes it nice and sort of centered. Okay, so that's your wrapper. All right, now I've showed you guys how to use a div and an ID, right? And here is the div with an ID, and we always use a hashtag before the name of the ID, and that calls the CSS for that ID. However, you haven't seen a header or nav or section or article or footer, not just alone. You've seen divs, as in div ID equals and then header, right? So I showed you how to do that first. I did it on purpose because, and of course we would close this out. This is the way that web pages used to be made and still are made. A lot of people do this. A lot of people aren't doing HTML5 yet, but should. That's the way things are headed. That's why I'm showing you it now. The only thing that's changed is instead of div ID equals header, we've just called the entire thing header and made it open and closed. Command save. So the same thing would be here. I showed you do a div ID equals nav, right? And then you would have the div here. But now, okay, oops, you just need to say nav. Where once it was div ID section, now it's just section. Where it was once div ID article, now it's article. Where it was once div ID footer, now it's footer. Okay, so the thing with HTML5 is all this stuff, it will look the same here. If I did div ID header and then went back to the styles and just put a hashtag in front of the header, nothing would change. The web page would look the same. The point is that when you're writing your code, the HTML5, okay, makes your code more readable. So now everything that's in the header goes inside the header, the nav inside the nav, section inside the section, etc., etc. That's the point. It shortens your code, makes it easier to understand, easier to organize, and easier for web browsers to find information, basically, because now it can look in a header, not for divs, headers, etc., etc. Okay, so get used to doing this. Okay, when you're making your web pages, think of header, nav, section, article, footer. This is the basic components of a web page. These two here, I'll go over in a different video. It's important to understand the difference between the two, but for now, just know that they go inside there. Okay. So I just kind of wanted to set you up with a basic web template. As you can see, it's pretty simple. You have our doc type, which you know, your HTML tags, right? So doc type is at the head, HTML tag at the front, closing HTML tag at the bottom. Remember that. I can't. I'm tired. It's 10 o'clock. I can't think. Whatever that thing is right now. The body tag, okay. The head tag, right? And then everything inside it. So I showed you then how to link a CSS page. We're going to start doing this from now on. We're going to have our CSS in a separate folder, or I mean in a separate page, and we're going to link it to this. And that's how we're going to start rolling from now on. Likewise, we're going to start adding new folders for images, right? And then we're going to start keeping our images inside of a folder. So everything is organized, all right? So if this was too fast, remember, pause, rewind, watch again. That's the beauty of video. I'm going to put a bunch of these up. Keep looking for them. If there's something you want me to put up, let me know, and I will specifically do a video on that. And I will see you in the next video, or I will see you in Code Club. Take care. Have a good one.